Welcome, everyone, to Talk and Rock Radio. My guest today has been named Billboard Magazine's Radio Personality of the Year 2 times. Yes, I said 2 times. He is included in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as one of the top 100 radio personalities of all time. In 2004, he was inducted into the Texas Radio Hall of Fame. Welcome, Sonny Melendrez.
Thank you, Rick Kern. I tell you, you read that exactly as I wrote it. So I'm very proud of you.
You know what, Sonny? If you had asked me a year ago if I someday would be hosting my own radio show, interviewing one of the top radio personalities in the industry, I would say you're out of your mind. But, here we are. So, I guess you have to watch what you wish for, right?
That's right. And you and I go way back. I'll tell you, we had
really
some great fun over the years.
We've had some good times, and we'll talk about some of them and everything in this interview. You've been doing this for such a long time. I mean, the word podcast wasn't even around back then. If you look up that word in the dictionary, they ought to have your picture there, right?
It's funny you say that because I talk about how I started out, with this dream of being on the radio, and how I was podcasting one listener at a time back when. I was like 11 years old, but I knew what I wanted to do. I knew that I was going to be on the radio. There was no question about it. But the problem was I was 11 and I couldn't wait to be, grown up and be able to go to a radio station, get a job, get experience, etc. So I created my own little radio show from listening to KTSA, the station I'd listen to under my pillow at night and in San Antonio. And I had my little recorder and my little record player, and I would play these, records and record and talk just like they did on the radio. And then I would take the recordings and I would play them for my friends on the phone, one listener at a time. So you're right. I was podcasting back then.
That is so cool. You're from Silver City, right?
I was born in Silver City, New Mexico. We moved to El Paso when I was about 4 years old. And then when I was about 5.5, we moved to San Antonio. And that's where I grew up. But then I came back to El Paso to continue my my radio TV education at what was then Texas Western, and then, of course, became UTEP.
That's right. Yeah. Those were great days, and talk to us a little about your first job.
Oh, well, I'll tell you, it goes back to those times when I was making that little recording. In fact, I'll just kind of set the stage for you. We didn't have a house or an apartment. We lived in the back of my dad's barbershop in the east side of San Antonio, a little strip center. In fact, there wasn't even a full address. Our address was 908 and a half Nolan Street. And my dad partitioned half of the barbershop so that we could live back there. And the reason he did that was so that my mom and dad would have the money to send my brother and me to private school, to parochial school, Catholic school, and Catholic high school, and then on to college. That was the whole plan. And indeed, that's what they did. So that's where we lived. And at night, my dad would give me 3 dimes because we didn't have a phone. Our phone was in the barbershop. It was a payphone. So my dad would give me these 3 dimes, and I would go in there and sit on the shoe shine stand and play these little recordings for my friends. Well, as time went on, I ended up, of course, getting a radio TV degree, but I actually enrolled at San Antonio College and was taking radio and television there. And almost by accident, really, I was walking down the hall on registration day. Now, keep in mind, I'm like 17 years old, and I'm going to be a commercial artist. And I'd had all my classes, and I walked down, Rick, and I see this window on this door. It's a little square window. And I think, where have I seen a door with a window like that? A radio station. So I peeked in, and I saw the most magical, wonderful sight. It was a small radio station control board and a microphone. And my head was spinning, and there was a maintenance person who was walking by. And I said, "What is that?" He said, "Well, that's the radio TV department." I said, radio TV, what's that for? Well, get a degree in radio and TV. You can get a degree. Oh my, I made a beeline for the payphone, used my bus money to call my dad and get his permission to change my major. He said, absolutely. And I did. And I never looked back. But as far as my first job was concerned, after San Antonio College, I went to El Paso to go to UTEP. So there I was at the college radio station, KVOF. And I forget who actually handed me the phone and said, listen, you've got to talk to Charlie Russell at KELP because they're looking for a weekend DJ. And I said, no. And then he hands me the phone. And immediately I would go into my radio voice, hello. And he says, okay, you're interested in a job? Come to my office, 10 o'clock Monday morning and bring an air check. I thought, what's an air check? And my friend says, that's the tape of your show. Well, the equipment was down at the station. They were putting in some new equipment. And the only way I knew how to make a show was the way I did it in my dad's barbershop. And so back then, the big deal was echo on the radio. As you remember, everything was reverb. And so where do you get the best reverb?
In the bathroom.
And so I was living with my aunt Vita over on Sacramento Street. And I literally put a board across. It's a wonder I didn't get electrocuted. I remember renting for $5 a recorder from KAHL Electronics over there at 5 Points. And I put a board across the bathtub. I had the recorder there. I had my record player on top of the commode. And I made this little show. I walk in, I've got my graduation suit into Charlie Russell's office, play the tape for him. He says, this is very good. Where did you record this? I said, oh, a little studio I like to use when I'm in town. And so I got the job. And Rick, I was working for $1.25 an hour. And I thought I had died and gone to heaven. How can they pay me to have so much fun?
Yeah. Well, that's a great story. And what year was that?
That was 1965. It was
65.
The summer of 65. And I remember I was at KELP until Valentine's 1966. And that's a whole other story. Because once I got that job, I found out that there was another Sonny Melendrez on the radio. And in fact, it was kind of funny because once I was, when Charlie Russell hired me, he said, okay, we're going to start doing these promos and you'll be on the air 2 weeks from this weekend. I was doing Sunday mornings from 5 a.m. to noon. And so the promos said, Sonny Melendrez is back and KELP's got him. And I didn't know what that meant. Well, some of the other jocks explained to me that there had been someone who on the air on KELP named Sonny Melendrez, like 3 or 4 years before, who went to Phoenix, changed his name to Sunny Night. He was now back in town programming this little, upstart station, 1,000-watt station, KINT at 1,500 on the radio dial, and he was giving some competition to KELP. So Charlie Russell thought this would be a good way to kind of put a little jab at him by explaining, by having me on the air, because that was really my name. So now I try to find out. I want to meet this Sonny Melendrez. Rick, I go to the station. I walk in. I said, I'm looking for Sonny Melendrez. And Sunny Night says, I'm Sonny Melendrez. He had a great radio voice. He billed himself as the last of radio's romantic voices. And he says, and I said, well, I'm Sonny Melendrez. He says, how you doing? So we got to talking. He asked me what I was making at KELP. He said, let's put all the marbles on the table, he said. And I said, $1.25 an hour. And he says, how'd you like to come over here and work full-time, $1.50 an hour? Well, that was all I needed to hear. Can you imagine? So I got the job, and that was on Valentine's Day, 1966. We drove up in his big Cadillac, and I went in to give my notice, and then came back, and we went over to KINT, and I was on the air that afternoon.
And then you became the director in a little bit later on, right?
Yeah, within 6 months, Sonny left, and I was now the program director. And that was the best thing that could have happened, because I didn't know, I didn't know what I was doing, but I learned through osmosis, and I learned from watching him. And then over the next 5 years, we took that station in the afternoon slot to number one. And of course, that was the time when we were giving Krosno some competition. And, it's funny because Steve Krosno, my first show at KLP, I'd gone over there. It was an evening, and he had just gotten off the air, and he gave me a ride home. And as he drops me off, he says, "You know something? I think you're going to be a star. You're going to be a star." In that great voice that he always had. And I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, "No, I can tell. I can tell." And he just listened to me just once. So we got to be very good friends, even though we were rivals on the air. And the irony of it all was the fact that here he was, Steve Krosno, he was German, and he's playing to the Hispanic audience and playing all this great music that was out at the time. And a lot of it was the El Paso sound. And here I was, the Hispanic Melendrez, playing hard rock to the Anglo crowd. But it was fun. It was great fun.
That's too cool. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit here and talk about in 1968, which is when I met my wife. In 69, we started dating, and then in 72 we got married. But you dated my wife before I even knew her.
I did, and I dated her only because I didn't know you were in the picture. Once you came into the picture, I just moved over. That was it.
Oh, she shared a lot of.
It's funny. What I love about Sharon, your wife, is that she has this, as you know, this great twinkle in her eye, and I've seen you guys over the last few years, and that for getting this having this wonderful life with your wonderful wife.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's been quite a few years. I'm not counting anymore. It's just we lose track. But I do remember our anniversary. I always make it a point to do that.
Good for you.
When was it, Sonny, that you took off to go to California? What year was that one?
Well, when I was at KINT in 1970, I won the Billboard magazine Personality of the Year award. It was a national award for a small market, as El Paso was, and that brought me to the attention of people nationally, and I ended up getting a call from KTSA, the station that I had said I was going to be on the radio when I was a kid. That was the station. But this time I was coming there not just to be on the air, but also to be a program director. So within a year, I won the Billboard Award again for major market. And that took me to Los Angeles and landed me a job at KIIS. And that was 1971 that I went to Los Angeles.
Yeah, that was a great time when you were out there. I remember we headed out there right after I got out of college. We took our band out there to, expose it and get into the studios, try to find some offers, record offers, whatever. And I remember just as clear as it was yesterday, going from Newport Beach, where we were living, driving up to West Covina, where we were playing, and listening to you on KRLA. Of course, we didn't have cell phones those days, but I think even one night when we got back to the house after playing, we had dialed you up on the regular phone and had a nice chat between songs with you.
You did. And it was great to hear a voice from, from El Paso and reconnect. It was terrific.
Yeah, that was fun out there. We really had great times. We met a lot of really neat people, and it was just seemed like a whole period of different times. It was so different than being in El Paso. Out there, it's faster paced.
It's true.
It's just crazy.
But it's funny. We talk about the good old days, and we can look back 20 years from now and think, remember when COVID and we got out of it and this and that. There's always good old days, and I think it's really important that we not lose sight of that. Otherwise, you end up I always say you can't live your life looking in the rearview mirror. You've got to look ahead, but especially you've got to appreciate this moment, this very moment, because it's always now. It's never the future, and it's never the past. It's always now. So why not enjoy and not worry about the things that, kind of creep into your mind?
Exactly. The time that you were out there, of course, you had several gigs while you were in LA, but talk to us a little bit about the different personalities that you were around. You had one job there. Boy, you were rubbing elbows with some pretty big A-time players.
Here's one of the things that I learned along the way, that no matter where you are, whenever you land a job, whenever you get to where you're going or where you want to be at a particular time, there's a good reason for it. And it's usually because you earned your right to be there. So when I made it to Los Angeles, I belonged there because I had earned my right to be there. But more so, I also appreciated those that I met along the way who were already there that I admired. And I ended up at KMPC. And KMPC in LA was billed as the station of the stars. This is the 1970s. If you can imagine this, every personality on the air, talking about radio personalities, every one of them was connected to a name. Was on Laugh-In, Wink Martindale, Tic Tac Doe, the New Parent Game, Clark Race. Roger Carroll was the announcer for the Sonny and Cher show. It went on and on. And I was the new kid on the block. I was in my 20s. But again, I had earned my right to be there. And I was actually doing segments for a national kids show called Kids Are People Too. And the great part of it was that all of these guys were so, they mentored me. In other words, I learned through their success and by being around them. And one of the people that I wanted to meet when I got to LA was somebody whose show I had played back in El Paso and San Antonio, and that was American Top 40, of course, KSM. And I would always think to myself when we'd play these shows, how incredible it would be to be behind that incredible, iconic microphone and broadcast of 500 radio stations around the world, including Armed Forces Radio. I mean, to me, he had the greatest job ever. And so when I got to LA, I wanted to meet him. And well, it turns out by the time I did meet him, he had already started to be a fan of mine, listening to KMPC. So about 6 weeks after we met, he calls me and he says, "Hey, Sonny, it's Casey." Like he had to tell me his name with his voice. And he said he's going to be on vacation in a couple of weeks and wanted to know if I would sit in for him. Would I sit in for him? I don't know. Let me check my calendar. So a few weeks later, I was on the air behind that microphone, Rick, broadcasting to 500 stations around the world, sitting in for Casey Kasem on American Top 40. In fact, if you Google Sonny Melendrez American Top 40, you can hear one of the sets from that first show. But it was, again, I believe that whatever it is, we set the motion in what we believe in our future, we start to bring towards us. It becomes a magnet. And I'm sure that you've seen things like that happen in your life.
Certainly have. In fact, I'm doing it right now with you. And
hey, I'm going to be on vacation in a couple of weeks. You want to sit in for me?
I don't think you want me there. I think I'll just keep doing one episode a week. I mean, that's been crazy enough. I can tell you that, man. Right after that period of time, you made reference to the one kid show that you were working with, but it kind of morphed into another kid show. You want to talk about the Disney Channel?
Yeah. Well, I guess it was 1981, I got wind that there was going to be a Disney Channel, and immediately I thought, I've got to do it. Because one of my 3 dreams when I was a kid was radio, cartoons, and working for Walt Disney, because I used to watch the Mickey Mouse Club, and I thought, I've got to be a part of that fun. So I created a show called Saturday in the Park. And I told my agent, I said, get me in front of the suits. Those are the people that make the decisions at the Disney Channel. He did. I went and I told them about the idea, and I'm standing there. In fact, I'm standing in front of 3 men and a lady, all wearing their attire, their suits. And I'm going through my gyrations, and I'm saying we go to parks all over the country, and I've got 20 kids with me. And then the guest stars appear in the different parks. And at one point, the lady looks over at the gentleman. She's going like that. And I'm thinking, they're making fun of me. And so I just finished up, and I expected him to say, don't call us, we'll call you. But what I heard was, Sonny, it's a nice idea. It's not what we're looking for. However, with your enthusiasm, we think you'd be perfect for a show that we're starting to produce called You and Me Kid. Would you be interested? Well, not only was I interested, but the show ran on the Disney Channel for 9 years. And we did, I guess, 126 episodes of You and Me Kid. So there you go. I mean, again, one of those things where if you dream it, you can achieve it, which is what Walt Disney would always say.
You bet. I remember vividly in 1983 when you all brought that show. It was when you started the tour of it, and
Right.
You came to El Paso at Bassett Center. And I remember just like it was yesterday, our son was 3 months old, and you were dressed up as, I think, Bert. What was the show?
Mary Poppins. Yeah.
Mary Poppins. That's right. And we were standing right next to the stage with our son in the stroller there. And I remember you came over and you picked up Ricky out of the stroller and took him up on stage. And it was really a cool moment. We've got photographs of that somewhere. When I find them, I'll make copies and send them to you.
Please do. Please do. Oh, yeah, those were great times. We actually went on a national tour throughout the whole country. In fact, that's what brought me back to San Antonio. One of the cities that we stopped in on, because my wife she played the part of Mary Poppins in the stage show that we were doing at all these different malls and places. And we had Mickey and Goofy and the whole gang with us. And so she had never been to San Antonio, and I had not been back since I had left. Well, she fell in love with it. She said, if we ever left Los Angeles to raise a family, this would be a beautiful city to do that. Well, lo and behold, the station that I had left, KTSA, now had an FM station, and they were looking to bring in a name, a big name for their morning show. They made me an offer I couldn't refuse. I not only accepted the offer, but if you can believe this, I don't think I ever told you this, but for 1 year, from the time I moved back to San Antonio, I went to Los Angeles every Monday and flew back the same day. So I commuted to LA to do my show. And
Wow.
in fact, I would get off the air at 9. I'd be on a plane at 10. And because of the time difference that works in your favor, I would get there at 10:30. They'd pick me up at the airport, go to the studio, record, and do tape for the rest of the whole day. And then about 5:30, I'd be back on a plane and I'd get into San Antonio midnight, 1 o'clock, and I'd be back on the radio the next day at 6 a.m.
Wow. I
loved it.
I don't know how you handled that, man. That would have been, major commitment.
No,
Tough.
I mean, who can go on the radio and say, so I was at the Disney studios yesterday, or I saw I was at LAX and I ran into someone's, I mean, you can't beat it. And plus you can sleep on the plane. There's no phones ringing. It's for somebody like me, with a high energy, it was a dream come true.
Oh yeah. Let's talk a little bit about Hanna-Barbera. What year was that? And tell us a little bit about how that impacted your life.
Well, that was actually while I was on the air at KMPC. I got a call from an agent who heard me do different voices, because at a very early age, I knew that I could do impressions, and I would do that of different comedians that I'd see on TV and different. I love the Jackie Gleason show and all the characters that he played, and I could always do all those. And then I also could do a lot of the teen idols, the singing impressions, like Bobby V, Bobby Vinton, Bobby Rydell, all the Bobbies. And so I was on the air, and an agent calls me and says, have you ever thought about doing cartoons? Because I had, of course, when I was a kid, my favorite cartoon show was Yogi Bear. And Yogi always had that bigger than life persona. Hey, I'm Yogi Bear, smarter than the average bear. And what was his little friend's name? Boo Boo.
Yogi, we're going to get in trouble with a ranger.
Oh, it bought a thing, little Boo Boo. And so I always loved the whole idea. In fact, that's where Herman W. Duck came from. You see, in the cartoon show, there was a little duck named Yacky Doodle. And Yacky Doodle was always walking around wanting Yogi to be his mother. And he would say, Mr. Bear, would you be my mama? I don't have a mama. And Yogi Bear would always say, oh, no, don't, I'm not your mama. Well, when I was 11, I would think to myself, I'm going to do that voice. And I did. I learned to do that voice. So when I was on the air in El Paso, I used that voice, but gave him the name Herman W. Duck. And that's when Herman was born. And of course, he became my alter ego throughout my radio days in El Paso. So there I was in Los Angeles now, and this agent is asking me to give him a sample of my work. And 2 weeks later, he calls me and says, okay, you've got your first job. And I'll never forget driving my little 1970 Ford Maverick into the studios, the Hanna-Barbera studios, the home of Yogi Bear, Boo Boo, and that little duck. Again, be careful what you dream for, but it gets better than that. I was there to do voices, selected voices, for the new season of the Jetsons television show. And if you recall, George Jetson worked at the Spacely Sprocket Company. Well, the voice of Mr. Spacely was a man named Mel Blanc. Mel Blanc was the voice of Bugs Bunny, Sylvester, Tweety, all those voices. Again, he became one of those mentors along the way. And I've always said the ladder of success is two arms. One stretched up to where someone is pulling you up to where they are, and the other is yours pulling someone up to where you are. And that's what he did. He not only kind of took me through all the different nuances of being a voice artist, but also actually taught me a lot of those voices. Would you like to hear some?
I really would. Thank you.
I thought you'd never ask. Okay, so here's Elmer Fudd, Sylvester, Tweety, Bugs Bunny, and Yosemite Sam. We keep getting these darn notices. I apologize for that. These darn notices. Be very, very quiet. I'm looking for a little gray rabbit. And when I find a rabbit, I'm going to tear him apart, limb from limb.
What's up, Doc?
Have you seen a little gray rabbit?
Big eyes, yeah. Big teeth, yeah. Big smile, yeah. I ain't seen him. Ain't I a stinker? I thought I threw a pretty tat. I did throw a pretty tat.
You bet you saw a pretty tat. The pretty tat was me. Wow, I'm the wildest, rootinest, tootinest, shootinest.
Yeah, shut up.
There you go. Now, I know you can't see this, but I've spit all over the screen here. So I'll wipe that off.
Oh, I love it. In 2009, I gave you a call and was telling you about our Border Legends show. So in 2012, I had given you a call and asked you to consider being the MC for our show. And the main reason why I really wanted that to happen is because I had talked to the band The Chains and asked them to consider reuniting after 40-something years. And they were living in all parts of the country, and they decided, yes, we want to do this. We want to come back to our favorite city, El Paso. And so they did. But I wanted you involved because you used to book that group.
I did.
I think you ended up getting a Corvette as a result of all those bookings.
No.
You got those guys.
Not hardly. Yeah, when I first saw the Chains, I was on the radio at KINT, and I was promoting these dances. We'd actually put together these dances at McKellican Canyon, and they were great fun, usually on a Friday or Saturday night. And I remember going to Cathedral High School because I had heard about this band that was just packing them in. And in fact, it was backstage that I booked them for I think 4 gigs, and they were just fantastic. In fact, I ended up, I think, coining the phrase "the Beatles of El Paso" because that's who they were. They had that same look, that feel. They had the organ. I mean, it was the whole package.
Well, and they such nice guys. I stay in touch with them on a pretty regular basis, and it's like they never quit playing. I mean, they picked it up and had a little rehearsal the day before, and they got up there and did it all over again, and El Paso loved them. It was really
they did
pretty valuable,
yeah.
Really, really neat. But in your current existence on the radio, you've got numerous shows that you do, and I have enjoyed hearing your different podcast episodes. One of the more recent ones that was really dynamite was the one with Johnny Mathis. I really enjoyed that one. But I'm going to ask you, through all these years of working with different personalities, Sonny, out of all of them, and I know this may be a hard question to answer, but if you had to pick out your top 3 personalities, could you do that?
Yes, I could. But, again, it's a kind of a loaded question because there's different reasons for different personalities. One of them that comes to mind was somebody who had actually come to El Paso to perform at the Coliseum. And at the time, we not only owned KINT in El Paso, but also Sun Country Broadcasting also owned a station in Albuquerque, KPAR. And so we had booked the singer for the El Paso Coliseum and then also for a concert in Albuquerque. So I traveled with him. I introduced him, had him on my show. We got to hang out. We went to Albuquerque, had breakfast the next morning. And at one point in my at breakfast, you know, because I was always joking around and coming up with all these different things. In fact, I remember we were at a counter at a place close to the Coliseum there, and we were playing chess with the salt and shakers, you know, just, I mean, silly things like that. And he says to me, and he was serious. He says, how'd you like to go on the road with me? I said, what do you mean? He says, yeah, how'd you like to be my opening act? And I said, I can't do that. I've got 2 radio stations to program, you know. But at the first, I thought he was joking, but later he told me that he was serious. Well, I ended up hooking up with him again in Los Angeles. In fact, I introduced him at the Hollywood Bowl, and at the Hollywood Bowl, I had a picture that we took together, and in the picture, I'm actually wearing a suit, and I've got this tie with flowers on it. It was a black and white picture. So he signs the picture, and he signs it, Sonny, please don't ever wear that tie again. Signed, Neil Diamond.
Oh, wow.
So that was one of my you know, very special moments, and somebody who was at the, you know, the top of his game, still is, obviously, but still down to earth, really, really nice guy. Another one that comes to mind is someone that everybody told me I'd never be able to meet because of all the people in front of him, and I'd never be able to even connect with him. I not only did, but was supposed to go there to his office for a 30-minute interview, ended up staying for 4 hours, and then ended up working with him, promoting the American Music Awards. And that was somebody that, to me, again, had this dream job because he not only was a talent in front of the camera, but also behind the camera. He didn't wait to be hired. He hired himself. And that was the great Dick Clark.
Hmm.
And the third would actually be Casey Kasem, who I've told you about. Casey was just a very, very giving, you know, individual, very talented, but really, you know, wanted to help people along the way as well.
One of the things that you're doing these days that I think is got to be very gratifying for you is you're doing motivational gigs with Fortune 500 companies. They've reached out to you to come and do what you do best. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm really blessed to have found another career beyond radio, but I've always looked at it as stages, you know, whether I am on television, on radio, on a stage, even when I write and have a readership, a following there, they're all stages. They're all performances that I'm very proud to, you know, to deliver. But the whole thing with speaking just kind of happened along the way. I ended up, you know, getting about, I guess, 15 years ago, getting a request to give a keynote address, and I did. And one thing led to another and another, and now I've got speakers bureaus, etc. And I enjoy not only delivering a motivational, inspirational message, but also meeting so many people, Rick. It's just wonderful to be out there and seeing, you know, the people that are out there wanting and needing just as much as anybody that you would know. You know, the one thing I found is that we're all so different, and yet we're all so much the same. And certainly this year of COVID has taken the speaking business into a whole different realm because it literally stopped. I mean, I can give you the exact date. It was March 15th, 2020, that literally all of the conferences stopped. Everything got canceled. It looked like it was just, you know, doom and gloom. But what came of this was this whole thing called virtual speaking. And I can't tell you how many keynote addresses I've given virtually in front of this camera and literally been able to not miss a beat. But now, as conferences are starting to open up again, the other wonderful thing that's happened is that there are people who would not normally be able to afford or be able to go travel to a conference that their association has, but now they can attend virtually because that will now be part of the whole package moving forward.
Well, you know, I know this whole COVID thing has been difficult for all of us, you know, and musicians and everything, the whole world. But hopefully we're going to see a turnaround here real soon and we can get back on track and start doing, you know, the normal things again. It'd be great. Yeah. Well, my friend, you know, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you to bring in your little friend. You know, is he in the house today?
I don't know. You're talking about now in El Paso at KINT. He was Herman W. Duck.
Yeah.
But as I told you, he is now known as Bono Duck. And the reason we changed his name to Bono was because I wanted a name that would be pronounced in English and in Spanish the same way because he's bilingual. Mm-hmm. So I think Bono Duck is. Hold on, let me see if I can wake him. He's taking a nap right now. Hold on.
Okay.
Bono, wake up.
Where is it? What's going on? Is it Christmas?
No, it's not Christmas.
What are we doing?
I want you to meet somebody.
Who is it?
His name is Rick Kern.
Rick what?
Rick Kern.
What's that?
Well, you're going to meet him right now. He's a friend of mine from El Paso. Come on over here.
Is that him?
That's him.
What's his name?
His name is Rick Kern.
Rick Kern.
Yes. Can you say hi?
Hi, Mr. Kern. How are you?
Hi, Bono. It's a nice to meet you. I've heard so much about you.
Oh, yeah. Where is Rick Kern?
He's actually in El Paso.
Where's that?
In El Paso, Texas. You know where that is?
Oh, yeah, I know where that is. What does Mr. Kern do?
Well, why don't you ask him?
What do you do, Mr. Kern?
Well, I got this little radio show called Talk and Rock Radio, Bono.
Talk and walk radio? I can do that.
No, not talk and walk. It's Talk and Rock Radio.
Is it fun?
Yes, it's very fun. He has a lot of great guests on it. And maybe, as a matter of fact, I think you're on the show right now.
What?
Yes.
I'm on Talk and Walk Radio.
Talk and Rock Radio.
Talk and Rock Radio. Do I have to sing?
No, you don't have to sing. But it would be nice if you told Mr. Kern about who you are and what you do.
What do you mean?
Well, you know, about your family.
Oh, okay. So my mom, she's a stay-at-home mom, and she does a lot of work at the house, and she never gets any help.
Well, I think you should probably help her, don't you think?
Right now?
No, not right now.
And my dad, he's happy that the Stones are still together after all these years.
Oh, you mean the Rolling Stones?
What do you mean?
You know, hard rock Rolling Stones?
No, bedrock Flintstones.
Oh. So, Bono, what do you like to do?
I like to swim. I like to fly.
That's right. See, that's one of the things, Rick. Bono, unlike his friends, there's Donald and there's Howard and there's Daffy. None of them can do what?
They don't know how to fly yet.
That's right. Or at least we don't know that they can fly, but Bono does. Bono flies everywhere. So maybe he'll fly to El Paso sometime soon.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Nice. Let us know when you come, Bono, and we'll take you over to Chico's Tacos and turn you on to some of the best tacos you've ever had.
I love tacos. ¿Sabe qué? También me gustan las chalupas. Oh, y papas fritas. Oh, y enchiladas.
Okay, that's enough. All right, Bono. Time to take another nap.
Again?
Yes, come on. There you go. Run along. There you go.
There we go. Well, thank you for that. That's a great way to end a great time with you today, Sonny.
My pleasure.
You know, I know we need to do some more of these down the road, and we definitely will. There's some other radio TV personalities that I want to bring into the fold here. Johnny Thompson's one of them. Your good buddy Pete Heinlein, who's now living in Australia.
Yeah,
and we had a great conversation a couple of weeks ago, and I'll guarantee you he'll be watching this show. But he thinks fondly of you, as I know you do with him.
Same here. Pete was, of course, one of my cohorts at KINT, also a fellow student at UTEP. And he went on to great, talking about going to the top of the mountain. He was with the Voice of America for many, many years, and now is retired. But what a great voice, what a great guy, and what a great communicator.
And he has some great stories. You know, you need to look at his podcast that he's doing right now. It's a not podcast, a blog site.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting, all the places he's going over there. And of course, his wife is, he's kind of
Purnell,
letting her do her thing, you know, and she's doing a great job over there. But well, anyway, my friend, I think we're going to sign off for this one. If that's all right with you.
Absolutely.
You know, I really appreciate you, Sonny, and everything that you do. Keep on doing it, my friend. And
Rick, let me just say that I'm really proud of what you're doing. I know that this was a big step we've been talking about your podcast for almost a year now, and you did it right. You've gone out and you've really, to get your guests, but not only that, with your equipment and just everything that you're doing. So I wish you all a great success. And I know there are a lot of people, myself included, who you've met along the way and who you've helped along the way, that are really appreciative of your friendship.
Thank you, Sonny. That means a lot to me, buddy. And we'll stay in touch as we do. Okay, but we're going to sign off for now. I'd like to thank everybody in El Paso and around the world for listening in today. I'd like to also thank Barbara Given Vaney's Remembering El Paso Win, the El Paso History Radio Alliance, and KINT 98 Radio. Tell all your friends about the show, because without you, our mission is only halfway done. This is Rick Kern saying, be kind to each other, and we'll see you next time.